If you are a DJ that does already subscribe or are thinking of subscribing to a streaming service, then there are some key limitations that you ought to know up front. And as a working DJ in 2025, working every single week in bars and clubs, I purposely actively avoid using streaming platforms. Let me explain exactly why. First up then, let's talk all about stems. If you are streaming music, if you are subscribing to a streaming platform, you may not be able to use this feature within your DJ controller. Now, the reason why I'm covering this first is because I made a video all about mapping the FLX4 buttons to stems within rekordbox, and the most common question that I got asked in the comments, and still to this day I'm getting asked in the comments, is every time I try to use stems, it comes up with a warning saying there's no analysis data in order for me to use stems. And 99% of the time, the reason why this is happening is because those DJs are using streaming platforms. SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, all of those platforms will not support stems use. You just cannot use them. Now, there are streaming platforms out there which allow you to use stems. So if you subscribe to Beatport, BeatSource, and Tidal, yes, you are able to use stems, which is great. However, you will have to pay for the most premium subscription on those platforms in order to use it, to my knowledge. BeatSource in 2025, at the time of filming this video, is priced at $35 a month, which is quite a hefty price tag. Beatport is $30 a month, and Tidal is a little bit cheaper, but you still have to pay for the Pro DJ pack, which is an additional $9 a month in order to unlock stems. But if you are using any of the other streaming platforms, then unfortunately stems may not be available for you. So it is very, very critical that you know this in advance, because you might be disappointed when you are trying to use this feature. Limitation number 2 of using a streaming platform is it is way more inconvenient to record your DJ sets. So the most convenient way at the moment in order to do this is in your DJ software of choice, rekordbox, Serato, or Algorithm DJ. You literally just hit record in the software, you stop recording at the end of your mix, and you have that file ready to do whatever you want to do with it. Upload it to Mixcloud, SoundCloud, whatever you want to do. You cannot do this with any streaming software at the moment, any streaming platform that you're subscribed to. That facility of in-software recording is disabled because you're effectively only renting the track. You don't own the music. And obviously, like, they want to stop DJs recording individual tracks and creating their own copies of the tracks. You know, that would be a bit cheeky. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to record your set using streaming platforms, but there are a few more steps that you have to go through. So there is the method of using a box like this. This is an iRig stream. I have got a fuller video on how to record your DJ set, so do watch that. I'll leave a link in the description. But in short, you've got this iRig stream, you plug this into the mixer, you then plug this into some kind of recording software. It could be an app on your phone or something like QuickTime, and then you hit record in that software, and then that will do the recording. This video isn't sponsored or anything like that. Or there are actual boxes out there that have an SD card slot, so you plug the SD card in and then you record your mix directly onto the box. I think there's a product by Howler that does that, or there's also the more expensive recorders by Tascam also do that. But what you have to factor in is the additional cost of buying one of these, and then also the added inconvenience of setting everything up. So it's just something to bear in mind. But if you want to know how to record your DJ sets, regardless of how you are getting your music, do watch that video that I have linked down in the description. Limitation number 3, and that is you cannot create custom samples using the tracks from a streaming platform, and that is across the board. So much like I made a video on the FLX4 and how to map the stems buttons, I also made a video on the custom sampler within rekordbox, whereby you create a loop on a track and you can cut that loop out and apply it to one of the performance pads to use as a sampler. Well, if you're using streaming tracks, this feature is completely disabled. You have to have the files physically downloaded onto your laptop, onto your device, in order to use this feature. So do bear that in mind. The custom sampler is completely disabled. Limitation number 4, and these final two are pretty major limitations in my opinion. Well, limitation number 4 is ultimately you don't own a music collection, which is for me one of the number one things I love about being a DJ. I love owning a record collection that I can share with my audience. The moment you stop subscribing to any of these platforms, even if it has an offline locker, all of those tracks disappear. All of those tracks are no longer able to be used. So all of that time you've spent building out your playlists and, you know, setting up your cue points, hot cues, all of that kind of stuff, all that work gone. Literally the moment you stop subscribing, which to me is absolutely wild. And so, yeah, you're paying a real premium price, in my opinion, for just renting a track collection. And so for me, until the prices of these subscription services really come down, which they probably won't do, I just don't think it's worth it. I'd far rather pay $35 a month and download 35 tunes that I'm really going to play and I'm able to keep. Now, on the other side of the coin, you could say that, well, music is not as timeless as it used to be and everything has a very limited shelf life these days. And so do you really need to own all of your tracks? But for me, as I say, I don't really like the concept of renting something. I prefer owning my own collection. And finally, limitation number 5. Now, this is dependent on the streaming service that you are using, but I would be avoiding streaming services that rely on an active internet connection. So iTunes, Spotify, etc. Fine at home, fine if you're at a house party that has like a very close little Wi-Fi hub. But if I was using this in a nightclub, I'd be nervous because the Wi-Fi in all the venues that I work at is absolutely dreadful. It would be chopping in and out all night. I basically would find Spotify, iTunes, and all of those other services where you have to have an active internet connection basically useless. BeatSource, Beatport, and other services out there have this offline locker, which I think is absolutely crucial if you are going to be using streaming platforms. However, okay, you typically do pay a premium for those services, so it is just something to bear in mind. Now, when it comes to streaming, it is not all doom and gloom. I know I've made some quite critical points as to some of the limitations, basically answering a lot of the questions that I get asked on why people can't use certain features within their DJ software. However, streaming can be quite beneficial. For one, you have got access to millions of tracks just by simply subscribing. Whereas a record collection, a traditional record collection, takes years and years and years to build up over a substantial amount of time. And so if you are a beginner DJ looking to practice in your bedroom, or you're not actually playing out to any crowds, and you just want to practice with a large variety of music, then streaming could be for you. In addition to this, it might be that you're playing gigs where you don't necessarily want to play all the requests that you are getting asked of. And so streaming is a good way to fill that gap, because you will have the track for the night and then you'll never need to think about or play that track ever again. In addition to this, okay, downloading records onto a hard drive or onto a device takes up a lot of storage space. Streaming avoids all of that. And you know, especially if you're downloading WAV files and not MP3s, your hard drive can get very full very, very quickly, which of course can lead to higher costs. And so streaming can actually bring some of that cost down. So as I say, it is not all doom and gloom. And as I mentioned previously in this video, music these days isn't as timeless as it used to be. There are so many tracks being released week in, week out. And so when it comes to actually playing music, if I even download a track, in 3-6 months time, I probably will never be playing that music ever again. And so, you know, you could consider that, if I've downloaded it, a bit of a waste of money. With streaming, it's just a case of removing it from your playlist and adding something new. So it does alleviate that problem. but it is important to recognize the limitations at the same time. So there are pros and cons to both approaches. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Are you a streaming DJ, or are you a bit more traditional like me and still download your tracks in the more traditional way? Do give this video a thumbs up if you have made it this far, and swipe across and please press the hype button for me. That sounds very weird, but it's a new thing that YouTube are doing to push this video out to other like-minded individuals. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you in the next video.